This project is called a dream garage, but it really isn't about cars. It's more about play and community, and giving creative people permission to experiment. You could call it a fantasy factory, but not in the literal sense, but in a way that space exists purely to make ideas feel possible. This project, it came from Edwin Olding. You probably know him from Grindhard. And from a collection of his ideas, his references, and his lived experiences that already existed long before there were drawings. My role here wasn't to invent those ideas. It was to translate them into architecture. This wasn't a typical client brief. There wasn't a checklist of rooms or a fixed program, but there were stories. There were inside jokes and memories of just hanging out late and of trying things just to see if it'd work. Edwin knows exactly how he and his crew use space. What I did here was to listen, edit, and clarify those ideas. Architecture at its best doesn't overwrite the culture, it just gives it structure. So here, instead of designing rooms, I designed excuses to stay. The diagram is intentionally simple. One large, flexible interior volume. Large openings that erase the line between inside and outside, and a rooftop that isn't really a roof, more of a stage. This building doesn't tell you what to do, it just gives you options. You could skate, you could build, you can watch, or you can hang out and do nothing at all. The architecture stays quiet so that people don't have to. The structure, it's intentionally straightforward. This isn't a building that wants attention. It's more of a container for activity. Large open spans, minimal partitions, a roof that just does its job and gets out of the way. Large overhead doors line up the longest side of the building, and when they're open, the space doesn't feel finished, it just feels activated. Sound can escape, people can move freely, and the building adapts to what's happening inside it. The goal here wasn't control, it was more freedom. And here, this is where the project really becomes itself. Because this isn't a garage in the traditional sense, it's not storage, it's more production. Inside, the space is loose and adaptable. skate ramps, open floors, room to experiment without worrying about making a mess. This is the kind of space where ideas don't have to be good to be allowed. And then there's the rooftop. The rooftop created by two fake buildings inside another building, a convenience store and a diner. They're familiar on purpose. But on the rooftop, behind this DJ area, there's a large window. So in the warmer months, it feels like you're outside. And in the Idaho winters, you still feel like you're outside, just without freezing. This window also, it becomes a backdrop for DJ sets, for live streaming, for content that blurs the line between inside and out. The space isn't just for hanging out. It's part of how work gets shared. And some of the details in here, they only make sense if you actually know the culture. The convenience store, it's not labeled 7-Eleven. It's labeled 712. A quiet nod to wheelies that go past 11. The overhead doors sit on opposite ends of the longest sides, so Edwin can pull wheelies, going from outside through the entire building and back out to the other side. Manholes in this faux parking lot, they could be custom fabricated, not as decoration, but as things you grind on. Here there's an exterior balcony overlooking the action, a place to watch and a place to film. And tucked away is storage for past projects. A physical archive of ideas that have already lived full lives, but don't need to live outside anymore, and it gives them the honor they need. None of this is accidental. It only works because the building understands who it's for. The best spaces also don't end at a wall. Activities, they spill outside, and then they drift back in. There's no hard line between spectator or participant. You're inside one moment, outside the next, without even thinking about it. The building doesn't ask you to behave in a certain way. It just gets out of the way. Here, I'd like to stop talking, because this project isn't something to explain, it's more something you can feel. As you move through the space, nothing rushes you. You linger where it feels right. You leave when you're ready. Light moves across the interior, sound gathers and dissipates. The building becomes louder or quieter, depending on how it's used. Can't you just imagine sitting here and hanging out all night with the Grindhard crew? No schedule, no pressure, just being there? Wouldn't that be awesome? I've been a fan of what Edwin and the Grindhard crew build long before this project existed. What makes their work special isn't the spectacle of it, it's really the joy underneath it. This building doesn't try to contain or control that. It just makes room for it. Architecture doesn't always need to solve problems. Sometimes it just needs to stay out of the way and let people do what they already love. Thanks for spending some time with me here. Remember, always design with intent.